I became interested just after my late husband died. He was an actor, and I think something was triggered by my move to Lincoln.
What was your first work you ever did?
The first thing I actually did was, well, it started off with short stories I did the course at night school, and then I became interested in past lives, so I started a novel, which is sort of 7 short stories linked together. The one at the moment which I'm finalising is The 7 Tales of the Timeless Traveller, which I did put a whole lot of stuff together, and I pulled some work out of that because each story equates with a crystal, and that equates with an emotion, so there's a different emotional link in each story. Some of that was put into a practical book on healing, but the 7 Tales is the one that I'm actually working on and making a talking book out of at the moment. The first story is set in Egypt. I actually did a course on Egypt to add to the research. They're all trilogy love stories with a lesson. One particular man in it he's quite a bad sort of person, and as it evolves he comes back again, different lifestyle, until he improves. By the end he's a really good sort of person, so there's a moral link through all these. And the second story is The Chateau of Secrets, set in France. That is to do with, it's actually to do with, the woman in it is quite well off, and she ends up, in order to be happy, she becomes quite poverty stricken. So it's sort of telling you about material values. The man she's married to, it's arranged marriage, is a very bad sort of character, but it's quite a strong, passionate love story, so there's a lot of that element in it. But as I said, it's also about poverty and not being too materialistic. The third one is really fascinating, Timeless in Moscow, set in Russia, which I enhanced that by travelling myself last year, set in Ivan the Terrible's period. A man that works for him, and he's quite evil really, and the woman is, well, he manipulates the whole family, which makes him really bad, and he sort of manipulates her father into working for him, but he murders, on behalf of the Tsar, he murders a lot of children, so it's really horrible to the family, and he has them deported to another part of Russia. And well, the worst bit is he manipulates them, and he takes one of the children from the woman he has an affair with and holds on to him. And she feels so much fear. There's a lot of fear, the element of fear in that story. She's absolutely terrified. But the worst bit is he manipulates the whole family, and which is horrible. And she does eventually find peace. The fourth one is called A Quest from Far Away, set in France again. And when she loses a child from a fever of 6, and she sort of has a lover, she's not married, and he's stabbed, but then she decides to go to an island. Someone in the church gives her this idea, so she goes dressed as a boy, because women couldn't travel alone those days, and she meets up with a girl that was a child of a late lover, and this girl almost gives her solace and helps her, and they also go to an island. They're travelling together to an island, a sort of a monastery, a place run by monks, and the woman then has peace. So the idea is she becomes spiritual. This character's born again as a monk this time, and so their friendship is just purely spiritual. The fifth story, Rosalind's Dream, again in France. A young girl, it's actually set in Suffolk, marries a rich landowner, goes to live in France, and when she's there she has an accident by falling over a cliff, and she's not able to have children, but a very close friend has a child, who she has a strong bond with, and she adopts him. That they do actually travel to the Pyrenees comes into this slightly, and she adopts a child, and she feels he heals her. So again, that this man has been reborn as a child in this story. So it's really the close link of the woman with the child, who is not her son, but feels as if he should be her son. He's actually closer to her than his mother. The sixth story is actually about death. She dies in childbirth because the boy, Peter, is to do with... she does become damaged in her future lives, to do with his elbow gets caught, and she does have a lot of back problems in later life, but she actually dies. It's all to do with her husband being true to her memory, how the children fare. It's more really to do with death, and the boy Peter, the son, actually sees a vision of his mother, and also the husband is nearly tempted to stray towards his sister-in-law, but he is faithful to the memory of his late wife. These stories sort of really interrelate with the modern day as well. The last story is two stories in one. The character that's becoming better in each life re-emerges as a policeman. There is a girl there who is a nurse. She's married, but her husband has ill health, and she meets a policeman by accident. They have a brief affair, but she's really married to her work. In those days also, women were not allowed to work and be married, and the fact that her friend, the policeman, if he'd found this out, she could have been in serious trouble. Anyhow, they break up, and she becomes quite high in her profession. She's more interested in work, but he is involved in a murder case, and the stepsister of the murdered woman he ends up marrying, and it's also at Jack the Ripper period, but that's not part of it. The idea is it's sort of two stories together. The very poor gypsy family, and the policeman marries into that, and the woman is more married to a job, and she's looking back on her life at the end. The idea is he's gone from being a really bad person, he's sort of ended up as a policeman, so he's evolved. They're essentially the man's lessons, but a woman's lessons as well, because she learns through him. And the third character, you've got a really nice man in the trilogy of all of them who stands back. He's almost an onlooker to the scenario. But that's the idea of the Seven Tales. I hope people will learn from reading it.